These are hobby shop owners. This is an average scale modeler. And this is the top secret location of today's video. This is my first ever interview. Will it be a cataclysmic blow up or just blue bonnets blowing in the Texas breeze? Stick around to find out. I have never done an interview in my life, but I'm a curious person and I wanted to know what happens behind the scenes at a hobby shop. And as luck would have it, I have one of the best hobby shops in Texas nearly in my backyard. It took a while to line up everyone's calendars, but we got it squared away. So please enjoy this behind the scenes look at my local hobby store. So without any further ado, let's get to the interview to learn some local hobby store top secrets and see how this interview experiment plays out. Also, stick around for some exciting news. Keeto Model Works first giveaway that the secret local hobby store was so kind to sponsor. Yay! Okay, let's go.
All right.
Okay.
All right. That first question was, what do you dislike the most about this industry?
You know, this has been going on for a while, but it's stepped up once supply got sketchy during COVID. But the limited nature of things often, especially on the model side in the first production run, if you aren't on top of it, you can miss out on that first amount that comes into the country, and then wait 2, sometimes 3 months, maybe longer even for the second shipment. So the extremely limited nature makes it difficult to navigate sometimes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's the same with Pokemon right now.
Yeah, we just had a thing with Pokemon today. We won't be getting it at all, even though we pre-ordered it. So.
Yeah, this new set, it's Pokemon's having a moment, and so we're competing, unfortunately, as a small store with big box stores like Target and Walmart, and I'm certain that they'll get some
Pokemon, but
of this new set, but for those people who want to shop with us, it can make it small for a small retailer to
difficult.
Yeah, some of the allocations. Luckily, that's not a huge problem for most products, but it definitely, the stock market sort of tendency of it sometimes where you have to guess. For me, I have to guess on some of my products 4 months in advance.
Okay.
Some of them it's 6 months in advance. I'm having to place my orders and then I'm committed. So if the community for it disappears, if it finally is released and online, it's just a complete dud, I'm stuck with it. And I've seen stores go out of business from one release because they had $50,000 committed to that release that they had to take, and then it doesn't sell. Or it's selling online for below what we pay our suppliers for. So that's not fun. The chasing aspect is
not nice. That's not fun.
No, it's like the stock market.
That's something we don't know as customers, Danielle. So that's why I ask that question. Is like, everyone thinks it's moonshine and roses all the time. In the meantime, there's things like this that's happening in the background. So that's why I asked that question as the first one. So if we move on to the next one, what do you like the most about this industry?
My favorite part of working in the hobby industry is the dynamic nature of it and the constant uh, development of new products, whether they be model kits or supplies and paints. I've never seen anything like it. It's like a Renaissance
Yeah.
period. And we're only 6 or 8 years past a time when people were wondering if the scale modeling hobby was going to survive
Exactly.
very long at all.
Yeah.
And it's the with the advent of YouTube channels and every manufacturer providing digital content for learning their products right away, the development pace is it's exciting. It's
3D,
exciting.
3D printing.
3D printing
all of that
is
good
is,
stuff.
is becoming a standard part of model kits now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you might get an entire model kit that's 3D printed, and very often detail parts
Yeah.
already in the box, 3D
Yeah.
printed.
Are
And
there manufacturers that are actually doing 3D printing?
yes, Edward
They're doing whole
jumped
kits?
in and pioneered. They haven't done an entire kit yet. Gas Patch is an example of a manufacturer that started out 3D printing detail parts, is now 3D printing entire kits.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
and they have plans to continue in 1/32nd scale, sort of taking the baton from Wingnut Wings and producing full 3D printed World War I aircraft in
Oh my
1/32nd.
gosh.
So,
That's cool.
so yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's really cool.
Okay.
For me, it's the people. I mean, that's just very easy. I joke a lot that at the end of the day, we're selling plastic and cardboard, plastic and paper. And because I don't really do the hobby, and because though I do love to play board games, it's not like it was my hobby. I just like it and think it's good for families.
Yeah.
I don't have the attachment to our products that a lot of people who are starting in this industry have. A lot of times I think people start in this because they want it at distributor pricing, And for me, it was a way to pay the mortgage and help, initially feed my kids and, now to support the team, that's what our products do. But without the community and without the people, this would be nothing for me.
Next question. Why did you get into this industry?
I got into this industry because it was one of the first loves of my life was scale modeling. And although I got education and was in a career at Motorola in high tech, I was working part-time for Bob and Alice King at King's Hobby Shop. And at the very moment that Motorola was selling to Freescale, all of my pension was going to change. A whole bunch of things were changing. Bob and Alice King decided to get out of the industry themselves and retire, and we're originally going to close the store. So my wife and I at the time decided to make the jump and made an offer and ran King's Hobby Shop for 10 years as owners. So it was a combination of a love of the hobby, learning from the right people to feel confident, Bob and Alice, and the timing of economics, of international economics, and the selling of the company. I don't think I would have probably done that if Motorola wasn't selling at that time.
Okay.
And that was
That was in 2002.
right that you
No, I'm sorry, 2001.
And what year did you start with Bob and Alice?
1989.
1989. Yeah. So I got into it because really because of the pandemic. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's I've always been entrepreneurial, and I've owned two other countries. Huh. I'm going to own Greenland too. I own two other companies before this, that didn't. I mean, I wouldn't say they didn't work out, but they weren't sustainable. So went back into the workforce, and then so I was on my second company actually when the pandemic hit, and walked away from it really without looking back, and was surprised. I was surprised about that, but didn't know what I wanted to do. And so Rudy was at King's at the time and knew that I loved to play the board game Catan, and so he would say he said to me, "You love to play that game so much. Maybe you should think about opening up a little game store in Kyle." And I had literally no idea that game store was a thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that it would be fun to introduce the world to Catan and
Yeah.
have the homeschooling moms come in and maybe do some educational. Initially, my thought was that it would just be kind of this like little boutique store that would only be open on Saturdays.
Okay.
So that was the original plan for Lionheart.
And why was it specifically Kyle?
Well, because that's where I live.
Is that where you live?
Yeah.
Then? Rudy, you didn't live in Kyle yet.
I
or-
did,
He did,
at that
yeah.
time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just barely.
Yeah, we're only about 1,000 to 1,500 feet from the store. Is where we
Okay.
live. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, cool. And so what was the biggest challenge that you guys faced starting this business?
I will say this. This is actually a pretty easy there's not a lot of barrier to entry into this industry, which actually can make it quite dangerous. I think that we got really lucky in that between Rudy's 35 years experience in the industry and my experience running teams and doing leadership and culture and doing finance and doing marketing.
Social
Yeah,
media.
I think those things, administratively, I was able to bring a tremendous amount to the table. And, so together we have just, over a century of experience between the two of us. Well, maybe not quite that much. We're not quite that old, but still, that has come into play so much that it gets harder as you go. Jumping in isn't very hard. And again, that can make it dangerous.
Yeah.
Because people can ruin their lives by doing this, really. I mean, they think it's just fun and games, and if it's really just your hobby and you have outside income, that's fine. But this was going to support our family, and it has. From the day we started, there's been no outside income. And so that's always the biggest challenge. Always, is just making sure that there's enough fuel for the machine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that you can front load it with product at a certain amount of money, and then also operate and pay for all of that while still being able to pay your bills at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of economic challenge that I think a lot of families face in their homes. There's home economics involved, just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. How do you guys engage with the community here?
Oh, yeah. A lot of different ways. Danielle brought social media to when we opened Lionheart, and we engage our community that way. Of course, in the store, in person, a lot of days, and we're here all day Saturday and see a lot of folks. We send out a newsletter to folks every Friday or around Friday.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
The
It goes
goal.
every Friday.
The goal is every Friday.
And
Friday's coming.
that lets everybody know
It's always
what came in new. And throughout the week before, we'll send out little blasts on Instagram and Facebook of things that we thought were important that people should see before the newsletter comes out.
Yeah.
The newsletter lets them know what came in new that week. And then Danielle does sort of a slice of Lionheart blog, of what it's like, operating the store every week. So.
Yeah, we're open 72 hours. That's a really big way that
Yes.
we can engage them.
Yes.
72 hours a week,
Yeah.
so 7 days a week. And we were recently on another podcast, and they went on and on about just how friendly it was when they came in. And I was so proud of that because it's really part of it's so important. It's literally in our handbook. Like, greet every person.
Yes.
We want everybody to feel like they're really welcome here and that they're home here. So.
And that was it was Friday afternoon. We were getting ready to go get set up. So I was on the road. Danielle was here, but she was in the back. That was our staff on the floor that made them respond that way.
Yeah.
It makes us so proud.
Yeah, it's really
exactly what
important. Yeah,
want.
so we want that
Mhm.
one-on-one engagement, and then we also
Yeah.
engage by going to model shows,
Of course.
and then of course, all of the digital ways that we possibly can.
And you have all those on the Discord server. I know you've got all the days actually broken down into what events happen on every kind of day as well. So you
Sure,
have the
totally.
Discord server as well.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and then we also have a membership.
Mhm.
It's relatively new, but we have a membership program at Lionheart, and those folks are really the ones that were like, because we have over 7,000 people now on our newsletter list. There are a lot of people in the community, and we are only 2 people, and there is a lot of work to do. So it is important for us to know, I mean, we want to put our attention to every person that comes forward, but it is important to kind of tier that in a way so that we don't get overwhelmed, and so that the people who are really kind of giving the most are getting the most.
Yeah. What feedback do you guys receive the most from the customers?
I want to do this one.
Yes.
Wow!
Yes.
It's the best reaction.
Mhm.
Whenever we're in the store and people come in, especially for the first time, and especially, of course, after we did the expansion,
Yeah.
it's just so lovely. Just the wow. I mean, it makes you feel good. I mean, everybody wants to work retail in here now on our team, because we get that. Wow, that is the number one. Just that. And little kids to grown men to grandmas.
To delivery drivers who have a hard time getting out of here. They come in and they've got a tight schedule. They've got to go, but they can't.
Nearly converting them really
sure.
from
Oh, yeah.
whatever they have right now as
That's
a
right.
hobby to
Exactly.
something new.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that people are so surprised by how much bigger it is.
Yeah.
They're really surprised.
Definitely.
I think that is a big, those two things. Wow, and it's so much bigger.
Yes. Yeah.
It's always great to to underwhelm people, I guess, when you're talking about yourself, and then they come in and see it.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the one tip that you can give someone that wants to start in these hobbies?
For scale modeling, it's super easy. Get involved in your local club or clubs.
Okay.
We are so lucky
Absolutely.
here. We have some of the best International Plastic Modeler Society clubs and independent clubs in the country.
Yeah.
It's a little club that Hayes County has that offers the feedback that you need. Larger clubs in both San Antonio and Austin. Just fantastic group of people.
Yeah.
And that is where you get all of your questions answered. I can answer a few here at the store, but on a basis of getting better at this hobby, if you want to, that is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because clubs offer that sort of unconditional sharing of knowledge that really helps the person improve almost immediately.
All the scale modeling geeks hang out there. I know that quite well because I'm one of them.
We have an example.
If you want to talk about anything P51 Mustang Bs and which one was built where and what factory, and this one's got that
and even without going into that depth, how in the heck do I get rid of this seam?
Yes.
How in the heck do I rig this ship that I'm working on?
These are all questions that members of clubs are more than happy to answer. Often they're answered in clinics within club meetings, seminars at the scale model shows. We have an example or two on our staff of folks who join clubs, and within a month we're building contest quality models. It's just
part of the community engagement that you guys also do is the build and bulls. And I mean that's something that I attend quite often, and I've learned a lot of stuff by just being at the build and bull, you kind of thing, especially with Gunplas and Gundams and all that, because I'm getting into that now. So I mean that's one of the best places to learn.
That's a great point. Build and Bull and Tim Robb's Modeling 101 classes have filled seats at the local clubs very well.
Yeah, and we're doing workshops here in the store now. So for people who are local, I mean, I would say that, if you can't, the club is once a month, so not everybody can necessarily do that. So if you do have a hobby store, go to your local hobby store. Of course, we try to keep And we do keep educated people on our team. So even if I don't know something, I can point somebody to somebody on the team that does. So going to a local hobby store is a great way.
Yeah.
If they're good,
Yeah.
is a great way to learn the hobby. And of course YouTube, you know,
Yeah.
and online. A lot of people are doing that because not every place has a club.
Yeah.
And you know, again, it's that clubs sometimes meet once a month. If that doesn't work for your schedule, then you know, there are a lot of great online resources for learning things, but yeah, I think actually doing it in person is for sure the best way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
here at the store, we're doing Build and Bulls. We do it the first Saturday of the month, and then we also do on Tuesday evenings.
Yeah,
we
we've
do
added that
building.
one recently.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah, so any Tuesday you can come out and either have a workshop, which will be followed by kind of like a building
Build and Bull,
session.
yeah.
Or just a build and bull that's just free to come in and sit. And it's kind of building up now.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of people in last night building, which is
Cool.
great.
Yeah.
We love
Cool.
seeing that.
I have to admit, I absolutely love the Golden Bulls. That for me, that was something new. So, and I really enjoy that time.
And we
with
think
all the fellow guys.
Yeah, and I mean, hobbying is it's a solitary thing. It's a great way to kind of pass long days, but once a week or once a month to come out and have that camaraderie
Yes.
and be able
And get
to learn
questions
about
answered.
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome.
And what are you using? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, how fun. Women have scrapbooking. We scrapbook together. We quilt together. You know, we cook together. And I don't think unless you're into sports, there's a lot of ways for men to bond and spend time together like this. And hobbies and games is just such a beautiful way for it to happen in just a healthy, beautiful environment.
How's it, everyone? This is Gordon from Keeto Model Works. I wanted to jump in here and tell you about the giveaway that Lionheart Hobby and Games was so kind to sponsor. Lionheart has sponsored a $50 gift card. You'll be able to use this card in the lower 48 states in the United States at either their brick and mortar store here in Kyle, Texas, or their online store. All you have to do is head over to my website, purchase one of my high quality t-shirts, and you'll be automatically entered into the draw for the gift card. Simples! I've just created some new designs too. So head over to my website and check them out. My t-shirts are high quality, 100% heavy duty that I've tested myself for the last 6 to 8 months. There's also an Under Armour option available now. Each t-shirt features a direct to film illustration of a kit that I've built and that featured on my YouTube channel, Instagram or Facebook page. This Abrams, for example, featured on my Facebook page. So please head over to my website. The link will be in the description and I will show it somewhere here on the screen. Order a t-shirt and get entered into the draw for the Lionheart $50 gift card. The winner will be drawn June 30th and will be notified via the email provided. I appreciate the support immensely, everyone. And remember, this offer is only open to US residents of the lower 48 states. There is also no purchase necessary, so if you feel that way inclined, please send me a message at info@ketomodelworks.com that states you would like to be entered into the draw. Now, back to the interview. I want to ask some personal connection questions next. So what was your first scale model, and Danielle, your first game that you fell in love with?
Yeah, the first model that I fell in love with was the Revell, at the time it was Monogram 148 scale B17, the B17G. I saw it in catalogs. That's how you kind of shopped at the time. It was showing up in catalogs for $13. This was 1973. I wasn't old enough yet to mow lawns or anything, so it was a case of having to talk my parents into why this was an important thing for me to have. So I had to work on it for a while. It took 3 to 6 months for me to soften them to getting the Monogram B17. It's not the first model that I built, but it was the first one that I fell in love with in a way that I cannot continue to go on without this model kit.
Okay, that's cool. And I mean, that kit's still available.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you can still build that kit.
There are compelling arguments that it's still the most accurate
one
B17 and 148. So,
yeah. Cool.
I grew up playing board games and card games primarily with my family, and so I knew all of the classic games, and I didn't know about any of the modern, kind of like modern European games. Not that they're all made in Europe, but a lot of them started there. But let's see, it was about 23 years ago now almost, I was introduced to Settlers of Catan. Now it's just called Catan, but at the time it was Settlers of Catan. And I remember it being set up on the table just like totally overwhelmed and like, no way, I'm not interested in this. But then when I was forced to sit down and play it, it was so fun. I loved this game. And I could play Settlers of Catan every day still. I could still play that game and just love it every time. I didn't know that there were a lot of other games out there. Hundreds of thousands of other games. But I thought that Catan was
That's the one you fell in love with. And
you're
still in love with it.
I'm still in love with that game. People will roll their eyes because it's there's games that are arguably much better, but it's doesn't matter. I love that game.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Share with us a customer story that was meaningful to both of you guys.
We go to a lot of shows, and there's a lot of stories in store that are really meaningful. I mean, we've had a lot of people who have told us that we saved their lives after going through just really difficult things. You think about when we opened, the pandemic, and then George Floyd. We had police officers in here dealing with PTSD and modeled like their life depended on it, and then told us months later how we saved their lives. I know that we've helped families create core memories together. And that's all really beautiful. But one of my absolute favorite customer stories was at the Austin show 2 years ago. And we had just set up, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and our booth was in the front. And so it's like you walk into the doors and there's a Lionheart. And it was almost like the sun was shining down on our booth, and there was a beam onto this one model, and this man came in, and he was kind of backlit as I saw him come up because of the lights, and he came up, and he was like, "You have it! You have it!" He couldn't believe it. He was like, he couldn't believe it.
It was the Garwood.
What kit is this?
It was the AMT Garwood refuse truck.
Okay.
That they had announced in 1972.
Oh my
and they
goodness.
completed about 40 to 50% of the tooling work.
Yeah.
And then dropped it. And then
in
didn't
1972,
complete it until 2022.
Yeah, and in 1972, he found this kit in the back of some magazine and tore it out, and he had it. He'd been carrying this around.
He was waiting for it to come out. It was one of those announcements.
Oh my soul.
And it never happened.
And so he told me that he had left that morning and told his wife that he was heading to the model show. And she said, "What are you looking for?" And he says, And she said, "You're looking for that garbage truck, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yep." And he walked in, and there it was. And I just thought.
And his voice filled the room.
Wow.
I mean, he was really
This is all
excited.
about a garbage truck.
But it was just so beautiful to see this man's dreams of 50 years
come through
right
there.
in front of my eyes. And we had
That
that.
kit
And
for you.
it was
That's
just beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. That's an awesome story, definitely. Okay, so looking ahead, what do you guys have in plan for the store? What's next? I mean, you just had this big
We just had
expansion
the
now, so
expansion. I think we're going
yeah.
to get comfortable in the new space, make the most out of it
Mhm.
for a minute, and then probably start thinking about the next step, maybe 3 years down the road or so,
Okay.
or begin thinking about making that step
Yeah.
in 3 years down the road or so.
We love this space
Mhm.
right now. It really is quite nice. Although we haven't spent a summer in here yet, so we'll
Mhm.
see
Oh,
how
yeah,
it's.
of
How,
course,
but
of
I think
course.
it's going to be so much better than it was before.
Yeah.
Having the drop ceiling in now is really good. The space itself is just, I don't know how sustainable it is very long term, because anybody who's been in the store knows
Mhm.
that we have the catacombs of storage units.
Yeah.
And the nature of storage units is that they raise the price on you
Mhm.
like every
Month.
month. And so we have like 13 of them. And so
Mhm.
each month it just kind of balloons.
Okay,
And so
okay.
they've worked with us a bit, but it's just long term. I don't know how sustainable this is for us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know, we'll see. We'll see if the world's still here
yeah.
in 3 years.
In
So,
3 years time,
yeah.
you never
Yeah,
know.
we focus on joy and, you know,
Yeah.
whatever's going to happen. But yeah, definitely right now we are just continuing to tighten our processes and get better at what we do and reach more people. You know, I go into the grocery store in town, or I go into Target, and I just see hundreds of people every single time I'm in there, if not thousands. And I imagine the percentage of them who have no idea that we're here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So a huge part of my goal is to get the word
Yeah,
out. Now
yeah.
that we have a store that's big enough to fill
Yes,
it, I'd like
absolutely.
to fill it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's part of why I'm doing this video, so
Thanks.
we
All
can
right.
get you know,
Outstanding.
some of that exposure going for the people that doesn't know there's a hobby store right just down the road from their house, kind of thing. So
We hear that all the time, Gordon.
Yeah.
People come in it every week and they're like,
Like,
"Oh
"You
my
didn't
gosh,
know."
I had
I
no
live right in the
idea."
neighborhood there, and I didn't see
that's
it.
it. Yeah.
Didn't know you were here until you got the brighter
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, the new sign made a big difference.
Right, okay.
People that were driving past finally are like, "Fine,
Yeah. See it.
I'll go
fine,
in
I'll
now.
go in."
How do you guys see the future of scale modeling and gaming?
Mhm.
It's bright.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
is. It is. And with all the advancements being made, I mean, and we're talking like daily to weekly, it is just crazy. We may not be selling model kits 10 years from now.
Yeah.
They
No,
may be selling
we'll sell
data. We may
Yeah.
be selling data that people
HTML
then take
files.
home and put on their computer.
Not everybody's going to have a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're smelly.
There was a
and
time when they said that about color
messy.
televisions.
As well.
I don't know.
Yes, but they aren't as toxic as, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, they'll probably solve that too. I'm thinking that the advancements are going to be, they're going to be great. They're going to be fast. Mm-hmm.
Gordon, life is long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're in stages in our life where we have a lot of time to fill.
Mhm.
I think the best thing to do for a broken heart is to paint a mini, build a model, play a game.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, I don't think that need to fill time. I mean, that's not unfortunate. It's good. It's part of the beauty of being human, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
we have all of this time, and this is just fun.
Yes.
It's fun and it's good.
Yeah.
If you spend 6 hours in an evening playing a video game, or 6 hours in an evening painting or
Yes.
building,
Mhm.
you're going to feel very differently
Mm.
after those 6 hours.
Absolutely.
Not that there's anything wrong with playing video games,
yeah.
but I don't think this is going anywhere.
Yeah.
Things are hard in this world, and
Yeah.
this is part of what brings joy. So
Yes.
nobody's going to want joy to go away.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that. So what do you guys think, like we call them LHS, a local hobby store, brick and mortar kind of building with actual kits and games inside of it. How does that play into like the digital and online kind of, shops that we have out there and,
I think I think that you're going to see a pendulum swing. I think that we're already coming back again.
Mhm.
I think people really do typically enjoy the hands-on experience of going into a store, seeing, touching, uh, interacting with people.
Yeah.
So I think that in-person shopping is not a thing that's going away.
Yes.
I think it's coming back, and I think that shoppers are open to it.
People need to understand this. And I think, like Rudy's suggesting, that they are starting to, but there's a lot of people who really don't understand it. And we've learned, well, I've learned certainly being in the industry so much that I didn't know before. So I understand the disconnect or the just the lack of understanding. That if you're buying from a place online and they don't have brick and mortar, then the cost for warehousing a whole bunch of things is very, very different than the cost for maintaining a retail environment with shelving and a team. So there is a cost difference between going to a brick and mortar store, and a lot of times, or not a lot of times, what happened, of course we all know this, is that when we had the advent of online and people were able to sell online, the prices started to go down. And then there's an expectation that that's where the prices are. But that is not a sustainable model for retail. So I think if we can learn to maybe have a few less things, but have them from places that, you know, we want to support. You know, if you want to save a few dollars, we're just not going to be the place, right? Like, because we can't compete with that. We can't. We just can't.
A lot of times those sellers are our suppliers.
And our suppliers will discount things to move stuff. But if we discounted everything, eventually we would just go out of business. We just couldn't do it. And so
I think most people understand that that's a privilege, for us to have a store.
I see it, and I hear it in the language of hobbyists that I want to pay a little bit more for the human experience of going into a hobby shop, like I did when I was a kid.
And there's a lot of people who don't understand, and that's okay. I'm not. That's okay to not understand, but we do try to educate people because retail has gone away. We hear all the time that, hobby stores are closing, they're closing.
Well, the Office Max down the road from me is closing.
Yeah.
How big is
Kohl's is closing. All of these places are closing, and they're closing for a reason, because people are looking for the cheapest thing. So if you want your small stores to survive, of course, you have to. So we can't compete with it. But
it's a unique experience.
We have to live.
It's a unique experience.
And at the end of the day, what I always appreciate is, like, when I'm busy building something and you now suddenly need something that you don't have, like a specific color of paint or something, and you can't move forward with a project because you're missing that paint. It's lovely having a store just down the road, and I don't mind going to come to you guys, pay maybe $1 more than I would for paint online or something.
No, paint, we're actually really greatly priced. And I would say
example,
this. So, but it's a good point you allow me to bring up, and that is that we have like all of the paint cordons. So if you have listeners that are far away and they can't come here, our prices on paint are great, and you don't have to go to 3 or 4 different stores to get like 20 different lines of paint. So,
absolutely.
So we are online, and we do sell online. It's so there's a place for it. It's just that for some things, and not all the stuff. There are some things people come in and they're like, wow, y'all are cheaper than Amazon. So when we can give a better price, we will. It's just that we're not a discount store. We're just so it's not that, you're definitely going to spend so much more money coming in here. That's not it at all. It's we just don't discount like the online discounters do.
Of course.
It's such a unique experience that for a locally owned store like this, we'll just use modeling alone, because models and games in the same store, we may be the only. But for scale modeling, an experience like Lionheart there's a handful. There may
Yes.
be 5 in the entire state
Yeah.
that are like this. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
they're a franchise.
Yeah.
And so it has become a unique experience.
The one thing I wanted to share with you guys is like, because I've lived in 3 different countries and been involved in this hobby in all 3 of those countries. There's one thing that, like, from local hobby store, that for me somehow is always the same thing, and it's the smell.
All right. Okay.
It's like all hobby stores smell the same for some reason. It's like the 2 that I had in South Africa, which was also
Is it musty?
family owned. Was it?
Is it a little musty?
No, it's I don't know what smell it is actually, Danielle. It's probably the smell of the boxes or something. Like they all smell the same, and like the 2 I had in South Africa, they smell the same. The 2 that I had that I could go to in England, they smelled the same.
All
and when I
right.
walked into your store the first time, I was like,
There it
"There's
is.
something
There's that
familiar here.
smell.
Like, what is it?" And it's
It's hobby
for some
store.
reason, it's the hobby store smell.
It must be
know?
to me extra thin.
extra thin.
Or something like that. Anyways, okay. So those were all the questions.
Excellent.
And so I just wanted to say thank you for spending the time with me and answering all these questions.
Thank you,
And
Gordon.
then once again, I wanted to also thank you for your involvement in the community, and for the stuff that you guys do for us here, in the area, and going to all the shows and all that stuff. I know that's not easy. It's difficult, loading up all the trucks and all that stuff, and going there and coming back and all that kinds of stuff.
We've likened it. We've likened it to moving 3 times in a weekend.
Okay.
In a weekend.
We do it like, 8 times a year? We
That's
love
right.
moving.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much again for the time. I appreciate it so much.
It was an
Thanks,
honor.
Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah.